Hey guys, welcome. Mystery here. And if you're just tuning in, this is the start of the tier list. And there certainly wasn't a bunch of faffing about before. We're going to go ahead and intro the segment again. We're ranking for the first time, we are ranking the best and most improved talents, keystones, blitzes, abilities, all that stuff in this patch, in the Bound by Duty patch, versus the ones that have lost out the most in the patch, from all the way from Ascended, the ones that benefited the most, decent buffs, a little bit of benefit, nothing changed, stayed about the same, minor nerf, losing out a little bit of power in the meta, and then finally, sorry for your loss, just took a massive L and are in way worse shape because of it. And that is the whole gist. Okay, let's get underway. We are going to start out right here with auras. We're going to go from least hype to most hype, because I think most people are probably interested in abilities. So we're going to start with the auras. And first aura up, this is Fire Team. Fire Team is 5% damage per you and your team, and it is a well-known fact that I have been pretty hard on this aura in the past. Nothing much is changing here. In fact, actually, I'm going to put it in minor nerf because, yeah, so 5% damage. Back in my day, 5% damage was actually something. Like, it was 5% damage. But remember, this is a 5% damage increase for your team, right? That means you're going to DPS a boss down 5% faster, assuming everyone was hitting it before and everyone's hitting it after. But nowadays, literally, Ogryn hitting the boss with a melee weapon one time will give you double this effect for 5 seconds. Literally, so many different effects on the team are providing extra damage. If a Zealot does a chorus next to you for 5 pulses, you get 30% team-wide damage. 5% damage, and it's an increase over everything else, so it's not multiplicative, it's additive. 5% damage on top of all of the other damage increases in the game right now is such a drop in the puddle. The veteran alone has like 65% damage increases to his melee, which is absurd, but 5% more is nothing. And it used to be useful because, like, there were less things that scaled burns and stuff like that, and damage over time effects are affected by this, but this is so piddly these days because of how many damage increases there are. So this is like got a minor nerf. I'm not gonna say it's absolutely dumpstered. It's still 5% damage, but yeah, it's pretty much down in terms of power overall. What hasn't changed is the 5% move speed aura for the veteran. 5% move speed is just about as good as it ever has been. If you want 5% move speed, it's a little bit more available now. Honestly, like, it's hard to say. Let's say this actually got a decent buff. This one is now available to actually be run. I'll give it a decent buff because this is now something you can actually choose. Previously, this was locked in a terrible, terrible portion of the tree that was inaccessible, right? You had to waste points more or less to get it. And if you were getting it, you were getting bad nodes as well, which was just horrible with the veteran pathing. A lot of this is going to change because of the way that now you can just take auras for free with the Bound by Duty update. You can just choose any aura. So with that free choice, this has gotten a decent buff because it is actually a choice now. You're not being talent taxed, you're not being point taxed in order to get it. Of course, the ammo capacity or survivalist here, ammo regeneration is very, very good. It's a powerful aura, but has it really changed at all in the meta? I don't think so. I think that this has stayed as exactly as relevant as it always has been. It was always the one you were choosing anyway. You were just pathing straight to it. It was right by the good talents already. It was never any additional talent points to get before, and it's no additional talent points to get now because you were already taking the stuff right next to it ahead of time. So yeah, you're still just taking this in 95% of cases. It's just such a good aura. I mean, I ran some games with it just to test and feel what it would be like to run that 5% damage, and you could see the ammo was running low in the team. Then you run Survivalist, No one mentions ammo the entire fucking time. It's crazy. And especially when if you're a Havoc player, this ends up, I've done the math before, because Havoc reduces your ammo by 60%, you only get 40% of the total. This ends up producing something like 10 ammo crates worth of ammo in like the average 30 to 40 minute game. So yeah, very valuable talent, but it's not getting any more power. We're going on to Psyker. 7.5% damage versus elites, kinetic flare or something like that. I don't remember exactly what it's called, but I'll just tell you what the principle of it. This node is exactly the same, right? So 7.5% damage versus elites isn't bad, but it's a very, very unnoticeable drop in the overall pool. It was also already on the good side of the tree for Psyker, and it was going to be taken if you had a Psyker who was already running the actual good aura on Psyker. But yeah, this hasn't changed in terms of its own goodliness at all. 5% crit chance on Psyker has received a decent buff here, because now that you can just choose any aura on Psyker, you are set to go. You can choose 5% crit aura, and there's actually a lot of stuff in the game right now that really, really wants crit. So Psyker being able to share 5% crit with the whole class isn't honestly half bad. So I feel like this actually has more of a place in the meta. However, it does not have anywhere near the place in the meta that the ultimate in Psyker auras has, which is the 10% cooldown aura. 10% cooldown has received a sizable buff here because cooldown is so much more like scarce. It is rare, right? 10% cooldown is a really, really big deal right now, because when you are playing all these classes that just got absolutely gutted and just had their cooldown nerfed into the ground, imagine you're playing a chorus zealot. This reduces your cooldown from 60 seconds to 54 seconds. So that's a 6-second reduction. And then you have your curios that will reduce it another 7 seconds. So between the two of those, you're cutting nearly like a quarter off of your cooldown. Yeah, very, very big deal to have this on your team. So it's just even more essential than it ever was before. We have got the Arbides auras here. Arbides auras, this one right here is your dog counts as he is in coherency with you and regenerates your stuff. Actually, see, let's see the exact terminology on it. Here it is. Your cybermassive counts towards unit coherency. In addition, you and allies in coherency gain an additional 7.5% toughness damage reduction. I think this is just about the same. You know, it's just about the same. I think in some senses it's like a little bit better because it's easier to stay in coherency now that they've made some of these aura talents bitter on all the classes, where your aura is bigger, your coherency auras are bigger. But at the same time, 7.5% toughness damage reduction is something that a lot of classes are having access to these days. So that part of the whole system is less valuable. So I'll kind of say it broke even here. Then we've got the damage versus staggered enemies talent here. Really, really good aura, but still about the same in terms of value. Stagger is roughly where it was before. This is a solid aura, don't get me wrong, but it is not increased in my approximation in terms of its power level. And then we've gotten an actually decent buff to the last one here, which is this node right here. Ruthless efficiency used to be 7.5% reload speed and actually got a direct buff to 12.5% reload speed. So I mean, you can't say that this didn't get a decent buff because it literally got a numerical buff. Now, whether or not you'd take this at all is another question, but it's at least a buff, and it makes it debatable whether or not you might want to take it, whereas previously you almost definitely did not want to take this because it was like, what's the point? It's 7.5% reload speed. You wouldn't even notice that, right? All right, on to Ogryn stuff. I don't remember the last time I did this, if Ogryn had his rework. I don't think he had, but if you're interested, Coward Culling here is the name of this first one we're going to talk about, which is 20% damage against suppressed enemies for you and allies in coherency, and 25% suppression dealt. As the Ogryn has not changed very much overall, we're just going to continue putting this exactly where it is. Stay Close is our next aura up, which is additional toughness regen. Where's my thing? Toughness replenishment for you and allies in coherency. I think that this is probably a little bit... No, because there's more methods of regenerating replenishment. Again, another instance where I think this is probably about the same, because on one hand, we've gotten more methods of replenishing our own toughness, right? There's more ways that each class can replenish, and that is multiplied by an extra 15% now. But at the same time, the overall direction of the game is to allow each class to replenish much more of their own toughness in a variety of methods. And so do you really need 15% extra? So that kind of evens out in my approximation. We have got our heavy hitter here, which is just 10% extra melee damage. The thing with this is melee damage is good, right? But at the same time, there is so much increase in the game right now. This is just like that fire team thing where 5% is an absolute drop in the bucket. This is a smaller and smaller fraction of the whole picture, because now if you're playing veteran, for instance, you pick up 15% melee damage from this minor node right here. And then you pick up, 25% melee damage from this node right here. You pick up 20% general damage from this node right here, right? So we're stacking damages on these classes in ways that is making this extra contribution by the Ogryn a smaller and smaller portion of the whole. Now, previously in like old Darktide, when there was like very little increases to damage like that, 10% damage, that's just a 1.1x multiplier. But when it's like an extra 10% on top of the 75% you've already gotten, it's a much smaller increase in terms of percentage damage. So I don't know. I think this is probably gonna get like, it's probably like a minor nerf just because the damage increases are so much higher. I think that there's other things that are gonna get more value out of it. We have gotten Benediction, which is toughness damage reduction. This is also a minor nerf. This is the Zealot toughness damage reduction aura. This is a minor nerf because this one is placed... It's not placed as optimally as it used to be, right? It used to be directly below Duelist. It used to be directly below Until Death and Revenant. So you were picking this up 100% of the time. It was a guaranteed pick. And now it is a little bit off to the side. It is underneath 10% attack speed, but overall, like 15% toughness damage reduction, it's still good, but there's so much in other classes now, and this one is a little bit off of the beaten path. We have to pay homage to Loner. Sorry for your loss, Loner. Loner is gone. So I guess in this sense, like, I don't know what I want to rank Loner. What's Loner's new replacement called? It's called Zealous. Minus 15% stamina cost for you and allies in coherency. So I mean, we have to say that Loner itself is just completely dead. So sorry for your loss, Loner. You are just completely out of the game because you were pretty useless except for one niche build. And we'll rank as Zealous when we get to talking about the overall power rankings of these classes. But yeah, this, I mean, Loner's like by definition sorry for your loss. It just can't compete anymore. I think we've got one left here, and that is our Cleansing Corruption. 1.5% or 1.5 corruption per second on the Zealot. This... I think this is a decent buff. So this used to be in that middle tree, and it was trapped in the middle tree in such a way that you really couldn't get access to it. So now, like, you kind of still want Providence as a talent, because Providence is a good talent, and you're going to take Faithful Frenzy here. Oftentimes what I see is players coming down this way and going to the left here with Against the Odds and then Providence, and then you branch out both these directions here. So you have a free choice of all three. Before, Beacon of Purity was trapped behind some pretty suboptimal talents, but you needed it in order to deal with like ooze and stuff like that on the ground, or gas. Now you can take it, and you're really only taking like I don't know, all these nodes are pretty damn good. Like you might be taking like a B tier node or something like that, but you're not taking any like C tier nodes like you were before. So it's had a really nice positional buff in order to get to it, which is definitely a sizable buff for that boy. Then we are going on to our blitzes. Okay, so blitzes here. We are starting, oh man, I shuffled these all up. Uh-oh. Okay. This is Kraks. This is Smoke. This is Arbides grenade, right? This is Immolation grenade. That's dog. Okay, all right, we can figure this out. Okay, shredders, guys. Shredders are nothing changed. Shredders are just as good as they've ever been. Shredders were already in the best position possible in the tree. Having the tree made more accessible for everybody, you know, for all blitzes to be considered, hasn't made them more viable. They're exactly as viable as they were before because players were structuring the whole tree around getting them. So that's all great and dandy. The shredder is still really good, but yeah, you're not getting any extra bonuses on the shredder that aren't just going to affect all the other grenades equally, except for maybe smokes. Kraks, though. Kraks are the first thing that is going into the ascended tier. Kraks have gotten a direct buff. They now, I don't have a way of going back in time and measuring, but it feels like their radius. Let me know in the, what do you guys think? Did Kraks gain a increased radius? Like with the explosion, it feels like they're bigger these days. But Kraks are much easier to get. The Krak boost with the node in the tree is an additional 25%, so you get 75% extra damage. And they're more useful now because you want to kill crushers, and they do enough damage to kill crushers, especially if you focus target them. So yeah, oh, and they have a reduced detonation time. They hit and they explode within like a quarter of a second. So these things got a massive buff. They feel so much better now. They definitely have more magnetism as well. Like they oftentimes will find their way to the target you meant to hit, even if they move. Yeah, so these grenades really went up a lot. And I don't know if I mentioned, but they have 3 charges instead of just 2. And 2 is absurdly low before. So that's awesome that they got that buff. They also kind of like really benefit. They're probably the best grenade at benefiting from the new what's it called, the Grenadier perk, the one that gives you an extra, let's see here, it gives you an extra pocket. Yeah, Grenadier, you get an extra 1 grenade and it gives you that 20% chance to throw an additional grenade. That is a really big deal for Kraks, right? Because like if it splits into 2, the Kraks will actually seek for different targets, but if it goes on a boss, you're destroying them. Usually when you take this, you take all 3. And Kraks make good use out of all 3 of these. So yeah, Kraks got a big boost, and that is awesome for them. At the same time, Smokes receiving a decent buff here. Not only do we have to contend with Plasma Gunners, which did just get hit with a big nerf, but Gunners are as dangerous as they've ever been, or more dangerous. But Smokes are Smokes are an interesting tool, right? Smokes are a very interesting tool, and the bigger brain you are, the more utilization you can get out of them. The reason they're getting a decent buff here is because of their positioning. In the old veteran talent tree, Smokes were over here on the right side, trapped behind some, or trapped above some really suboptimal talent stuff. So you had to really go out of your way and make your build a lot worse power-wise to take Smokes. Now it's free. So taking Smokes, and you can get 5% movement speed, which is a nice little buff, right? Out of it. So yeah, now Smokes are quite viable, I would say. If you are running no bubble into your Havoc game, take Smokes, and you're going to be in good situation there. That's at least how I feel anyway. Oh, I gotta change my... I'll keep plowing on. All right. Then we got to come to the Arbides. The Arbides has had some changes to one of its blitzes, as I'm certain many of you know with this patch. But more importantly, we got to talk about the shock mines. I feel that shock mines are probably more important than ever. I don't think it's anything directly about shock mines that has made them this way. But, like, things are so intense out there. I don't know. I don't think that this really impacts shock mines specifically themselves, so I won't give them any additional power. It's like it just seems that there's so much stuff going on in the current meta. There's so many big hordes of things. It is very, very nice to have these in your team. I'm not gonna lie. I am always very thankful for shock mine players to exist, but I don't think that shock mine is any more powerful than it was before. It was just like the situations in which that power was actually needed was not arising as often. And now I'm like, oh my god, please shock mine this. Holy shit, there's so much shit coming. So yeah, shock mines were already Omega god tier weapons, and now they're even better. The dog is an interesting thing here. I think that this dog is going to go in sorry for your loss tier. Having only 2 charges instead of 3 is a big hit. They played it off by cutting that cooldown to 50 seconds from 60, but you don't really notice that because previously what was going on is players were just building up all 3 charges and then they were dumping them in high threat situations to just solve the situation. And 3 stuns is 50% more than 2 stuns. I did that math off the top of my head, guys. So yeah, that's a big difference. That can make the difference between a boss staying crowd controlled in a corner and being killed outright, or it getting free and doing some untold stuff. That can be having that 3rd charge, right, in order to do it. And it's the difference, right? It's the difference between Krak grenades having 2 charge and Krak grenades having 3 charge. If that was the only thing they changed about Kraks, it would make a really, really big difference because of the way that this regenerates its cooldown, right? When you have 2 charges, or at least when you had 2 charges on the old version, you were regenerating an extra charge. You were making progress towards capping out that master, yeah, master mathematician. You were making progress towards another charge, right? So you had like 50% of one of these in your pocket. You were building up. But now if you get to 2, you're capped out. Every second you spend with 2 charges in the bank is a second where you aren't generating another one of these dog detonations, which is the real killer for it, having it have such a low cap. Yeah, so like if they let you build up charge on the back and like when you used it, it like would, you know, give you 50% of the credit or something, that would be different. But yeah, it really sucks not being able to pocket 3 of these. I understand why they're removing that, because it was just chain CC for days, but it really, really does suck in order to have that happen. Arbides grenades exactly as good as they've ever been. You know, just a very powerful impact grenade. I haven't seen a whole lot of these lately. I feel like Dog is still good. Like, you know, Dog is still good. Players still have reasons to run Dog, but I feel like even when I see Dog users now, they're running shock mines a lot of times. And that might just be like biased because I'm running in Havoc and shock mine is so good there. But yeah, the Dog is just, he was already kind of undependable. And then you would miss an explosion, but you're like, oh, it's fine. I got 2 more charges on it. And now you're like, uh-oh, I just fucking wasted that. So that's the Arbides grenades done. Let's talk Zealot nades. We have the Immolation grenade, the stun grenade, or the sunstorm grenade, and the knife, the ever-present knife. The Immolation grenade and the Sunstorm grenade are the big winners of this patch, I feel like. They are definitely ascended. The Zealot was the worst tree in terms of locking you out of blitzes. It was the most punishing tree imaginable for blitzes. You wanted all of these blitzes. They are all actually pretty good. I won't say that they're all like S tier or like even maybe A tier or anything, but they're pretty good blitzes and there's reasons to take them. The Zealot just couldn't take them because all the good talents were over knife. So yeah, having the option to actually get these makes a big difference. Immolation grenades are a useful blitz at low tiers of play and at high tiers of play, because like, you know, if you're bad at the game, you're gonna get overwhelmed by tons of stuff. Throwing down an Immolation grenade will kill tons and tons of things for you. And at the high tiers of play, there's so much stuff. What better way to erase everything than have them all stand in this massive puddle, and then you stack up Uncanny Strike on some unsuspecting fool, and then it cuts through all the armor and burns them all to death. And they honestly deal a pretty good amount of damage if you get Uncanny Strike with them. The Sunstorm grenades have always been the one that people wanted to use. They're just a get out of jail free card, a solve a situation grenade. if you got a down teammate, you toss it on them and you pick them up, because the stun lasts forever, and it's got a really, really big radius, and then you can hold 3 of them. And so, yeah, like these are good grenades, but they were in a terrible, terrible position before, but they definitely won in a big way with this patch, removing them from that purgatory. The knife is still just as good as it's ever been. Nothing has changed for a good old knife. It's still a throwing knife. It's still the easiest to use out of all 3. Well, for experienced players, it's still a nice way to take out specials and stuff without swapping off of your melee. And you can use a flamer and not have to worry about picking targets at range, because you've got that handled with your knife. And of course, they still didn't patch the ability to throw knives and skip animations and bring out the flamer or other heavy weapons. So I really enjoy that they did that. Oh boy, we gotta talk Psyker stuff. All of these are big winners. Brain bursts. Brain burst is serious damage now. I'm not even kidding. Not brain burst itself, but the new kinetic flare, the augment, or whatever they call it, the little accessory on brain burst, does a ton of damage, and it's regularly up every 12 seconds. What I've noticed is if you take this and like put like flame stacks on a boss or something, it'll just kill the boss. Like, oh yeah, and they buff like the actual way it calculates damage too, is what I heard. Although I wasn't able to actually figure that out for myself. I don't know if I saw Xeno saying that the other day, but yeah, it seems to do a lot more damage. If you put this on a boss, if you like stack up like 16 flame stacks or soul blaze on a boss and just watch, it'll kill him. It'll kill him. It'll take a while, but it'll keep proccing on them over and over again every 12 seconds, and does a lot of damage. It does like on the order of like 8,000 damage or something to the boss. So it'll chunk him over time, and it's just so dependable. It is such a nice include on so many builds, like melee Psyker or whatever. You don't like, you look at it and you're like, just an extra brain burst every 12 seconds seems like pretty low damage, but you don't realize how much time that saves you when you're going in. You're like, oh my god, I'm gonna have to like, I'm gonna have to kill this Reaper the old-fashioned way, or this bulwark. He's gonna be annoying for like at least 5 seconds, and then it just zaps them instantly, and you're like, okay, I'm just moving on. Don't even have to worry about the bulwark at all. He's just dead now. That is awesome. Smite. Smite is, Smite was already stupid. Do I want to say it's ascended just because I made a stupid build around it? It's pretty dumb. What are we rating? Oh, Azinev. Thank you for the raid, Azinev. Hi guys, we're tier listing stuff. We're talking about most improved or most whatever the opposite, deproved. Yeah. I think the changes, here's what I'll say. The specific changes to the way that the Psychonetics aura works fundamentally break Smite with Squire's Gaze. That shouldn't be allowed. I would not be surprised if they hotfix that like next week or something. But like, at least in this little snapshot of a window, if you're watching this in the far-flung future, viewer, if you're watching this on YouTube and you have no idea what I do, go look for the thumbnail that says unlimited power, like infinite smite or something like that on my channel, and watch what we were able to do back in the day, back in the good days of Smite. Stupid. It's just stupid. Like, it shouldn't be a thing, but they also buffed Smite directly by removing the prerequisite node, or not a prerequisite node, but everyone was taking it. It gave you 1 additional jump on Smite. Now that's baked in. So you get a discount for taking Smite. Smite is a free option, just like all the rest of them are, so you're not locking yourself out of any other options by taking it. And yeah, and of course you can just do stupid memes with it, which is awesome. Oh, and this is the perfect time to mention, if you're not subscribed to Mr. E, you should definitely do that on YouTube, of course, or follow me on Twitch, or whatever they call it over there. Awesome. Assail also gets the ascended tier here. Assail is going to be... Assail is better just by virtue of there being more generalized power in the tree. There's more power to be given to Assail, and Assail really got fucked earlier, in its existence by the fact that it was on the wrong, quote unquote, wrong side of the tree, right? You, in the old Psyker layout, remember, assail was over here, and if you took it, you couldn't get Psychonetic's aura, which is one of the best things in the whole game, which was over here. And it was locking you out all these really, really good talents. Now you can take it and go about your own fine day. And there's a lot of nodes that work very well with assail. So look for an assail build in the near future. But yeah, definitely like brought it into relevance. Now, whether or not it's like relevant in Havoc is a whole nother story, but it's definitely like something you can actually use in any build into like Auric and stuff now. Ogryn with his big boom 1 charge grenade. I feel like the Ogryn's single grenade got a bit of a nerf here, because the single grenade just isn't a good expenditure of grenades anymore. You know what I mean? There's so many different players or, sort of people out there in the sphere that want grenades now. Because now you've got veterans who want grenades. Or not veterans. Now you've got zealots who want grenades. They want their flame grenades. They want their stun grenades. So they'll be fighting you for grenades. Veteran grenades just got better because there's cracks that they want now. And Arbides dogs just got worse. So there's less Arbides running dogs and more of them running shock mines and more of them running Arbides impact grenades. So a single Ogryn big bomb just looks less and less appealing by the day, I feel like. I have always kind of been on this one just due to Darktide being finicky as fuck. You bomb and it might clear everything on the screen, or it might get wedged in some stupid spot and not do what you needed it to do at all. It's a very hype grenade, but I think it's definitely getting worse because it's just not a good thing to be spending a pack of grenades on in comparison. The big box of hurt is still really good, but nothing has changed for it. As a reminder, we're just ranking increases and decreases to power level with this patch. And then we'll go on to our actual power rankings with the next one. And then finally, Ogryn Rock. What do I want to say about Ogryn Rock? I don't think anything has changed at all for the Rock, right? I think it's just the exact same. I can't think of a single way that the Rock is better. Rock lost a breakpoint on Flamers on Havoc 40. Damn. Got it. Worthless now. I don't know. Rock is still so close to being the same. Rock is just like... Boxes are so good, right? If you're playing an Auric or whatever, you can use the Rock, sure. But when you're in Havoc, you need the disruption of the box. 3 charges on box, the amount of disruption, the amount of stagger that it provides, the fact that it knocks bosses back for like an hour, it's crazy. The Rock is Rock. Rock is Rock. It's exactly where it was. And it will always be the Rock. A rock in hard times, truly. Okay, we gotta do Keystones. Best and worst, most improved, most hurt Keystones. Douglas RBB ascended for sure, for no pun intended. With the dog, this ability, dog explosion, getting cut by a charge, and yeah, just that. Plus they cut like a tiny percentage of damage off of Executioner, which I really won't consider here, but Dogless looking better than ever, baby. Having no dog is seriously strong. Like, there was almost a legitimate reason to use it at like high levels of play before, and now I just don't know if there really is, because like, yes, the dog can save you from some dumb situations and it can save your allies and it can be useful. Like, it can go pick off plasma gunners and stuff, but a infinitely regenerating shock mine is such a big deal. It's such a big deal. Like, that alone is such a big deal. And yeah, so yeah, the regen shock mines is the one that is coming to my mind right away. Regen shock mines is crazy with this, and this was already one of the strongest nodes in the game, and now making the dog version worse is really ascending it. What is this keystone? This is a Psyker thing, I know it. This is Is that Disrupt Destiny? Nope. What the hell is that? Oh my god. We've got corrupted nodes everywhere, guys. Wait, is that a... Oh, wait, what the hell? This is what Forceful looks like? Good lord. What is this? This is the same. Forceful, nothing has changed for Forceful. I wouldn't... It's fine. Same thing with Terminus Warrant. And a minor nerf. A literal minor nerf to Execution Order here. Execution Order getting that 5% damage nerf. And since Dog is less viable, since Douglas is more viable, Execution Order gets worse, because one of the best ways to proc Execution Order is via Dog. Now, Execution Order might still be the strongest keystone in the game, especially if you're running Dog, but it's definitely gotten a minor nerf out of this. Yeah, minus 5% out of my plus 90% damage. I'm in shambles, truly. All right, and then what do we got next? This is... What is that? I swear these keystone pictures are not in my brain at all. And I love how these are corrupted, so I can't even tell what they are. Great. Is this the new... No. That's the... Oh, right. So, yeah, the dog keystones. That's no wonder I don't know them. This is a dog keystone, and so is... this one? I think? Let me peep that. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so we got elites or ranged targeters. Now, this would obviously mean that you have a dog at your side. I think that both of these are just receiving a minor nerf, just because they're making dogs slightly less viable, slightly less in the meta. Remember, you don't have to take any of these nodes. If you take this one, you lose the dog and you get a big buff. But if you weren't really using the dog anyway, if you weren't spec'd into him, he wasn't really doing all that much. If you take these, you're spending a node to get a little bit of an extra damage for the dog and give him some order priority. But, you know, you have to spend that node. You could save the node and go elsewhere, and Lord knows Arbides has plenty of powerful nodes. I just feel like having the dog in general got a slight nerf, so I'll put these in minor nerf. Not to say they're not strong. We'll talk about like how strong I think they are comparatively when we get to the actual tier list thing. But yeah, the attack speed, the regen of grenades, the damage reduction, yeah, that stuff is crazy. And yeah, so that's sort of how I feel about that. We have got to talk about Zealot stuff. Zealot got the big change, right? So we've got Martyrdom, we've got Blazing Piety, and we've got what I always call Momentum, but it's not actually called Momentum, but that's what it has. Inexorable Judgment. So I'll talk about Inexorable Judgment first. Inexorable Judgment is... Oh, hey, Tanner. Inexorable Judgment is in an awkward place because it got a buff, right? Especially with this right here. Having this duration be 10 seconds now is so much more comfy in order to keep this buff up for longer. A lot of times you were like fighting with that uptime being kind of low, and so you weren't getting the full benefit out of it. And then Retributor Stance is going to give you some comfy, regen over time. But the unfortunate thing is that this keystone is eclipsed by the ascendancy of the other two keystones, right? For Blazing Piety, I guess we have to talk about them as like as a set. For Blazing Piety, it saves you an extra node to get to this node here, so you can get 25% crit chance for 2 nodes instead of 3. It was what it took before. And now that third node will give you 25% toughness damage reduction and 2% toughness each second, which is a very big buff on top of a class that's already got some very reduced damage. So this one got the Ascension. Martyrdom absolutely got the Ascension, perhaps the most ascended of all nodes, but I don't know if I want to couch that. I'll just say all those are ascended. Martyrdom moving up to 50% damage flat and 30% attack speed flat, and having almost 40% toughness damage reduction, and having the most useful cooldown reduction ability right here, just having a constant, 50% increase to your cooldown reduction, is a great change for Martyrdom. I'm very glad that they chose to make this keystone relate to the actual Martyrdom node itself, because it gives you an additional reason to play in that style, and I think it actually sells itself. Now, if you're a goat, you can play Martyrdom and you're gonna pump serious damage, and it's gonna be the best keystone for you if you are in the top 5% of players. But if you are lower down, the general more accessibility of Blazing Piety is going to be a really good change for you. But both of them have early ascended. I'm going to give a minor buff to Inexorable Judgment as runner up there, just because I just don't feel like there's as many reasons to take this. Not that there ever were, right? Inexorable Judgment was like a speedrunner thing that players were using, and it's okay in some builds, but I feel like I don't know if there's any builds that like you would take this where it performs better than the other two options, right? Like, is Inexorable Judgment ever going to give you more damage than just going low health Martyrdom? No. And it obviously can't compete in terms of crit, so if you got a crit enabling weapon, you want to go here. So I just don't think that though it did get a buff, I don't think it's hanging out in that huge jump up tier, although they all jumped up. We are on Ogryn now. Ogryn has burst limiter override. Nothing has changed about burst limiter override. Thank God. Ogrynheimer still dominating out there. We have the this actually got a buff. This actually got quite a big buff from what I remember. So we have to consider the additional nodes here. What was it? Oh no, it didn't get that much of a buff, right? It was just a like 0.5% buff. Okay. I'll give it minor buff. I'll give it a minor buff. It got a decent buff. This one went up from 2.5, so 25% damage reduction and 25% replenishment to 30 on both of those, which is something, right? So that's good. And then heavy hitter, this actually got a nerf. This actually got a minor nerf. In fact, I don't know. Is this a major nerf? Because if you are unaware, Ogryn previously, heavy hitter itself is the same, but its knock-on nodes, specifically this one right here, went from 1.5% to 1.25, which is a 2% toughness damage reduction, and then we lost like 20% or like 40% cleave here, and then we lost 20% impact here. I think this is just a minor nerf. I don't think it's major. It's like those sheer crazy stagger numbers and those cleave numbers aren't going to be hurt by the very small amount of stuff. So I'm not too worried about where that has landed itself. We are going over to Psyker, who has also received some changes, but Disrupt Destiny is not one that is changed. Although what I'll say is that Disrupt Destiny benefits from Scryers being better. And with Scryers more in the meta, Disrupt Destiny is more in the meta. So I'm going to say that Disrupt Destiny gets a little bit of a buff here, because with more precision-based builds, with builds that can actually like diversify and not just all be staff slaves, you can build a very optimal, very powerful build that is Gun Psyker. Like, there are Gun Psykers that are fairly viable. I wouldn't say it's like super Havoc meta, but it's really nice. And so Disrupt Destiny is a higher value thing. Empowered Psionics is exactly as good as you might think. I think Empowered Psionics, with how good the blitzes now are, I would say is ascended, because this plus Smite is crazy. This plus Brain Burst is crazy. You can do some serious damage just Brain Bursting. I've seen with this. I haven't actually tested it with Assail or seen anyone use it with Assail. Assail is kind of a rarity out there, but yeah, these are both going up a lot. And we also got a minor buff to Warp Siphon, because Warp Siphon now has one of its minor nodes wrapped into it. So you've got a like a roughly, what, like 4%, stacking up to 4 times or 6 times if you have the nodes. And that'll be good. Okay, and then we're going to go on to Veteran, last up for these Keystones. Veteran has had some serious changes here. We're going to go with the first one here, which is Weapon Specialist. No changes for Weapon Specialist. Well, it had a very, very, very minor buff, but I'm not going to consider that enough of a buff to really change where it's at. The other 2 nodes, however, are way better. Focus Target is ascended in terms of utility. The Focus Target buff itself hasn't really changed its values. It's the amount of time that it takes to get it. So previously, you made 2 stacks. You get 2 stacks every... you get 1 stack every 2 seconds. And so in order to get your max stacks, which was initially 5, and you could increase it to 8, you were waiting 8 seconds to get those stacks. And then, 8 seconds. And then if you had the 8 stack thing, you were waiting 14 seconds. So you're waiting around all day to get this buff onto, or this debuff onto enemies, and it was just really, really annoying. Now it stacks up every 1.5 seconds, and you can only either have 4 stacks or 6 stacks, and those stack sizes, or the value of each stack, is increased. So at max, you were waiting 7.5 seconds to dump 6 stacks, the maximum amount of stacks, on a boss and make them take 30% increased damage. And then they increase the value of the nodes behind it as well. So really, really big buff for Focus Target. And it makes it so much more usable. Like you can actually seriously put this on like tons of enemies all the time now and keep that buff rolling. So yeah, you can absolutely burn a boss down. Then we've got Marksman's Focus, which is 100% ascended. This is maybe the most ascended thing on the entire tree. Like crazy what they did here. The removing the movement penalty, which is the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life, was revolutionary for it. We don't have to stand still anymore. You can actually move around. The fact that this thing stacks to 112.5% weak spot damage or whatever is ludicrous. And of course the reload speed, and then that replenishment where you're getting your stamina back every time you claim a headshot kill is really, really big as well, because it allows you to counteract dead shot. So you can dead shot all day with like something like a vigilant auto gun. So yeah, snipers are eating really, really good with Marksman's Focus, and that's great. So I was very excited to see this change. This was when I popped open the veteran tree. This is the first one I looked at. I went right here and I looked at this to see if it was there. Okay, now we're on to our abilities, which ones have won and which ones have lost with the patch. The charge ability for the Arbides has seen a decent buff here. It is now counted as blocking when you're charging, which is pretty big. The ability to not just charge face first into a crusher overhead has long been a problem for the class, like not gonna lie. And so yeah, being able to just block that stuff and not worry about that when you have the shield or when you have a weapon. You can block like sniper shots and gunner shots as you're charging into them now. So a minor buff, but a pretty nice buff. Ogryn's charge, nothing has changed here. The Aquila, Nuncio Aquila, nothing has changed for it. It's still just as good as it's ever been. Point Blank Barrage, even with the buff they gave it, nothing has changed, guys. This is my least favorite ability in the game right now. I feel like it serves no purpose, and I was really hoping they would see the light and actually give it something sizable to make it more pickable, but it's just like, who is running Gunlugger Ogryn at all these days? Yeah, you can do everything you can with this node with nothing, with just not even choosing it as a node, so really sucks. Castigator stance, nothing has changed, still super strong. Taunt, minor nerf, kind of sucks, losing 5% base damage, and when you're taunting with the damage increase one that's called this valuable distraction, and it got a 5-second increase to its cooldown. which brings it to 50 seconds instead of 45 seconds. Now, the Ogryn has plenty of ways of reducing its cooldown, such as our friend, where is it? Somewhere down here. I don't know. There it is. Yeah, maximum firepower. Why are so many nodes broken in here? God damn. And Bruiser, like these are ways to cool this down, so you don't really have to worry about it that much. And they didn't hurt Go Again, which is a percentage cooldown. So yeah, Loyal Protector, no problem. It's still going to be up just in time. Now we have to talk about. Wait, I have. Okay, yeah, that's all the Ogrons. Okay, now we got to talk about the bubble or the pain. The bubble itself is honestly a little bit more useful than it was before. Bubbles are super, super good. Honestly, actually, I'm going to put them in Ascended. So, bubbles are benefiting from the change to Psyker's cooldown. Psyker is the only class that got a buff in its cooldown in this patch, because Psychonetic's aura used to benefit themselves. You would only get 4% of your cooldown back when you killed an elite or specialist. Now only you get that cooldown back. You get 3 seconds back every time anyone in Coherency kills an elite or specialist. So if you're a Psyker player and you've been using bubble, you felt the difference, right? You can use bubbles. They're overlapping all the times now. Like you're having bubbles like stacking out there in the field like crazy. So that is that's really, really awesome. And yeah, bubbles just so much better, like just with the uptime, and it's more useful because there's scary plasma gunners out there. And of course, they also did do a minor buff to right here on this side of the tree with bolstered shield, but no one's using this. So they still need to keep buffing this, but bubble spam is like crazy right now. Like just being able to pop up. I've seen 3 bubbles on the field. And like that used to be something that would rarely happen when a Psyker would blow up a whole pack of shotgunners or something. It's just like common now. It's crazy. So yeah, I think that they need to keep buffing this side over here and bring this up and make it like something unique. Like you should be able to build like a little house out of it, or it should just last for like a very, very long time. I don't know. It shouldn't last just for 17.5 seconds. That's for sure. It should be like double that in order to make it actually good. Okay. Then we've got Scryers. Scryers absolutely ascending. 20% damage reduction is a big deal, and it's wrapped into the node now, and you gain 2.5% of your toughness per second, which is huge. It saves you a node, and it just makes the ability itself just that much more useful. So yes, Scryers is so good, and it's on the right side of the tree because there's no more any right or wrong side of the tree. There's so many more viable builds that work with Scryers. So yeah, Scryers is maybe the biggest winner out of the Psyker update for sure. And welcome, Dude More. Thank you. Venting Shriek is... I feel like Venting Shriek is the loser here, though. I just don't see... I don't know. I don't understand what Venting Shriek's position or place in the meta is right now. Like, bubbles are so safe. If you're going for a caster build and you're playing with your team, I don't understand why you would vent ever, because bubble is so free, and venting is really only good if you're overcapping flame stacks, and if you're doing that, you're using the flame staff, and if you're doing that, you're not blowing yourself up. Yeah. So, I mean, like, this just doesn't get the buff that everything else does, so I'm going to consider it a minor nerf to vent. Also, it lost, like, one flat damage thing and replaced it with another node that no one's going to choose. So, neither one of those nodes is anyone ever going to choose. Like, no one's choosing to vent with 10% increased damage taken for enemies hit. Like, that's not good enough to make it worth, I don't think. All right, we got to talk about veteran abilities, and then lastly, we'll talk about Zealot stuff. Veteran Shout. Minor nerf to Veteran Shout, very minor nerf. That's why I wrote minor there. Not having 6 seconds flat cooldown reduction cut off your cooldown literally every single time you kill a specialist, it interferes with Veteran Shout. Not much, but some. You can no longer run a mission that has, like, you know, the hordes and hordes of dogs and just infinitely print your cooldown like back repeatedly and just shout, which was really annoying. Now you actually have to wait a good amount of time. So at max, you're going to be casting like every probably like 12 seconds or so, which is fine. But yeah, it's like crazy fast. Instant cooldowns are gone, so that is a minor nerf to it. But as far as the ability itself, it's exactly the same as it's ever been. The infiltrate skill, decent buff, but not enough, right? So we'll talk about this when we get to the second tier list, talking about like where these talents actually are at. But 30% damage, which is now baked into this ability, is not enough to make this ability actually good. This ability still suffers from a long cooldown and just generally like not bringing what the other abilities can bring. Like it's not even remotely close to Shout, and it's far behind Execution Stance now as well. Execution Stance is like the big winner on the class, definitely ascended. The thing that they needed to fix, which they correctly ascertained and nailed, was that you cannot just have glass cannon abilities in the game anymore, right? There's too much crazy errant damage going out. There's too much like, you know, stuff that's unavoidable. There's gunners that are going to find you. There's like random dudes that are going to like just latch onto you and hit you. Having 10% toughness replenishment per second doesn't seem like a whole lot, but it really does offset that issue. So like you can actually just stand there like in sniper Overwatch position and tank some shots and exchange blows, rather than before where you're like, oh shit, I can only stand up here for a half a second before you get sniped. So it's very nice. And the increases to like viability on lots of different weapons on the class, like vigilant auto guns, which work really, really well with it, are also very, very nice. This plus Marksman focus is also a natural synergy, because you're going to be able to see the targets, and therefore you're going to be able to go for headshots on the right targets. And yeah, so there's a synergy there. And I think this is actually kind of viable. Is it like Havoc 40 meta? No, because Shout's meta, but you could make a pretty good build using this, and it'll pump your damage a good bit, and you won't completely grief using it. And we gotta finally talk about the Zealot. So overall, the Zealot has one thing that has really hurt him, and that's that cooldown is like 1/2 or 1/3 of what it was. The ability to instantly cool down some of these abilities is gone, but at the same time, they implemented cooldown specific abilities to these, like, to the abilities themselves. So Fury of the Faithful, I feel like nothing has changed for Fury of the Faithful. It's just the exact same ability as it's always been. You can reclaim 6 seconds off this cooldown every time you get an elite kill within like a couple seconds of charging. You still got the 2 charges. It's still a guaranteed crit with all of the wrapped in effects. I don't think anything has really radically changed for Fury of the Faithful. It's still just like the standard Zealot ability. But Shroudfield is really, really big. Shroudfield having a 30-second cooldown that ticks while you're in stealth, and now when you backstab out of stealth, you can get a portion of your cooldown back. Actually, I'm gonna lower it down because I gotta hit it with the counterpoint. You can backstab out of stealth and get some cooldown back, and then you get 5 seconds to do whatever you want and just go ham, which is amazing. So you get some actual flanking done, and you can, like, you know, not just get instantly murdered. That's really, really good for this ability. What's not really, really good for this ability is the nerf to Pious Cutthroat, is the nerf to, I can't even remember the name of my own class. This one, Invocation of Death. And with those gone, you're not going back into stealth instantly like you used to be able to. You're not going to be able to, oh, and also double stab is gone, which is the other really big thing. So yeah, like those nerfs hurt it a lot. It's a more fair ability now. It's definitely more akin to ability that should actually be in the game as opposed to what it was previously. But it's very powerful. I think it definitely increased itself in power, and then some of the cheesiness was removed from it. So you can't infinitely sustain it by double stabbing and flanking enemies and getting Pious Cutthroat backstabs. Yeah, flanking strike, by the way, is shooting people in the back, is what I understand it to be. So because there used to be a node for like flanking. I don't know. That's what I understand it, but it doesn't seem to be making the cone behind them any wider. And finally, we have Chorus, which is the biggest loser of the entire patch, I think. Chorus bot was like just everywhere in Havoc. And, you know, I probably am a big cause for that. But, you know, you could get a chorus back in every 10 seconds and just permanently pause the game if you knew what you were doing. And now you cannot. The maximum cooldown you're going to have, if you have your Curios and you have a Psyker on your team, you're looking at about like a 46-second cooldown there. And then the best, absolute best you can do from there is somewhere in the ballpark of like 25, 26 seconds. Because remember, when you're chorusing, you aren't getting any cooldown while you're chorusing. So like that doesn't actually count towards your time, and you also can't crit during that time either to get some additional cooldown. You can crit right before you do it and get 3 seconds off, which I guess is okay, but it's nowhere near as good as Invocation Death used to be. So yeah, this ability just really sucks now, which, I mean, that's fair. Like, it's a really strong ability, but yeah, it's just a really hard ability to justify using now, with Zealot being as damage pumpy as it's supposed to be. They've removed him from being the support build, and now Veteran is the better support, right? Because Veteran's going to have better gold uptime, Veteran's going to have better regenerative stuff for the team, and that really does suck, because I kind of liked having Zealot have a support archetype, and what I was really hoping for Zealot is that they wouldn't nerf this in this particular way, that they would change the ability and make it less toxic. But I guess just making it so you can't even use the ability, like, barely at all is one way about it. So yeah, Zealot's kind of eating some poison there. They really went down in power. And honestly, I think we got to shift some stuff up when we're talking about ranking the classes in a few days to week here. Anyway, okay. Well, there you go, guys. Some overall thoughts. A lot of stuff has really ascended in terms of its power level, especially some of these blitzes on Psyker, on Zealot. The Keystones on the Veteran are big wins. A lot of abilities are now getting big buffs. Not that Bubble ever needed it. Welcome, Kuro. Thank you very much for joining the Mystery Men. And then we've also got plenty of things down here getting decent buffs, right? Like these are getting decent buffs, but these are the ones that I want to see more of. What I really want to see, and I know they're not done with reworking these classes, but what I really want to see is just some of these like get actually interesting mechanics and interesting interactions. There's so many that are just so boring, especially the auras are so boring and bland right now. And I'd love to see those reworked. They've proven that they can do it. So that's what we got to look to in the future. And thanks for watching. Okay.